Hey photographers, are you ready to elevate your editing? Then I have really exciting news for you. Pack 6, which is Eric McVeigh's Part 2 preset pack by Goodlight Presets, is available now. If you've ever struggled to capture that effortless, nuanced aesthetic that the top editorial photographers are known for, then this pack is made just for you. Eric McVeigh's Part 2 presets will transform your editing process. You'll now be able to dial in those perfect skin tones that you've been wanting to achieve and nail down the tricky reception flash edits like a pro. What I absolutely love about Pack 6 is the commitment to color accuracy. The presets are incredibly mindful of keeping skin tones clean and true to life, never muddy or overexposed, which is what those high-end clients are wanting. This pack delivers the ability to give you that perfect balance of polished yet refined editorial look that you've been searching for. If you're ready to take your images to the next level, then head over to goodlightpresets.com and add them to your collection today. You'll be so happy you did. Hello, friends. Thank you so much for joining us for another conversation. I'm here with my girl, Taylor. Taylor, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am great and giddy because we are kicking off a brand new series. If you know Taylor and I, you know that we love a series. Last year, we brought you the All-Star series and our Sip and Tell series. And this is our first series of 2025. Taylor, do you want to introduce it?
You guys, we had such amazing feedback from the All Star series last year, but we were hearing from a few of you that while it is extremely motivating and inspiring to hear from people at the top of the market, you guys were really wanting to hear people who were in the trenches building their businesses alongside you. So that's what we are bringing to you this spring as our new series called the Rising Star series here on the Level Up podcast. So over the next 6 weeks, we are going to be interviewing filmmakers and photographers who are doing amazing things, making huge moves, and currently taking their businesses from mainstream into the luxury market and pushing the boundaries. And we get to hear all about the strategies that they are currently implementing, what's working for them, what's not, struggles that they're facing. It's going to get really real. And I think this is going to be one that resonates with so many of our listeners because they are going to be building alongside you.
Yes, I'm so glad that you guys gave us that feedback. Again, this is a two-way relationship between you guys, and we really listen to what you guys are wanting. And that's why at the core, we decided that bringing this Rising Star series to the podcast was just really going to be beneficial for you.
Yes, absolutely. And who is better to kickstart this series than Tommy Kirkpatrick, who is a wedding filmmaker? He is doing some amazing things. He has some beautiful work and some incredible insights that he's going to share with us throughout this episode. So let's dive into this first Rising Star episode with Tommy. This is the Level Up Podcast. I'm Taylor Petrinovich.
And I'm Kelly Gilster of 618 Studios.
And we are on a mission to help wedding filmmakers and photographers level up their businesses so you can make more and work less.
We want to help you confidently take your business from mainstream to luxury, and it all starts right here. Well, hello, Tommy. How are you? We are so happy to have you on the podcast this week.
I'm doing good. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. Just, enjoying the little lull we have right now before spring season kicks in.
Yeah, so you are in Jackson, Mississippi.
That's right.
Let's have you tell the listeners a little bit about you and your business, where you're based, what your season typically looks like, when it starts, all that stuff.
Yeah, so I'm based in Jackson, Mississippi. I've been filming weddings for about 10 years now. Started in 2015. Came off from a career I was actually a software developer back before then, had a degree in computer engineering, but have been doing video work on the side for a while and decided to jump in full time about 10 years ago. So filmed my first wedding 10 years ago, 2015. And then, but yeah, as far as the season goes, really March is when it kicks in. So we're in the deep South. So the summer heat is brutal. So it's kind of shifted over the years to where there's almost very few weddings, at least, happening in July and August when we're in the worst of it. So really spring heavy and really fall heavy. So March it kicks into full gear. Sometimes early February can start in a little bit. We've got a few I know a few weddings happening in the next few weeks. I'm second shooting one this weekend, but yeah, March kicks in really hard. April, May, and June it starts to taper off a little bit. Then September you're back in full force. October is always my busiest month of the year. It's when pretty much everyone in the South wants to get married, it feels like.
It's so fun hearing regional differences.
Yeah,
I feel like that pretty closely mirrors like a Florida kind of
yeah,
season,
exactly.
but here in Northern California, it's a little bit different.
Mhm.
Like I don't start usually until May, so all of mine are
Yeah.
between like May and October, with
Mhm.
tons happening throughout July. So it's just so fun to
Yeah.
hear different people's seasons.
Yeah, it's really is kind of crazy because then the same thing when you get up to the, northern half of the states and the Northeast especially, like, once it hits, like, October, they're done. There's no way you can do anything outdoors like October, November, December.
Yeah, where there's snow on the ground.
Yeah, mhm.
Mhm, mhm. Well, Tommy, we specifically wanted to bring you on to kickstart this Rising Star series because we just think you're doing such incredible things in your business. Not
Thank you.
only is your work just breathtakingly gorgeous, but we can tell that you're really putting in the work on the business side of things and you've been growing exponentially over the last year or so. So we just wanted to dig into what you've been doing in your business, what's been working for you, what hasn't, all of those good things.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to get started, and thank you so much. That means a lot to me.
Yeah, it's so cool to see when like huge transformations, and I can see such a huge difference from your business last year to
Mhm.
where it is now. Taylor and I were actually on your website right before hitting record, and we were actually just saying like his work is so good and so beautiful, and you've just done such a great job. You know, really with the messaging on your
Mhm.
website and showcasing like really real true portfolio pieces. um, how did your business look like 10 years ago? How did this all start? Did you shoot your very first wedding for free like many of us did? Did you shoot it for 850 like Taylor did her very first wedding?
875, Kelly. That
Oh,
$25 is a
875.
lot.
I was close though, so I was 300, I think was my first wedding. And it was,
Cool.
it's actually funny before like I mentioned, I had a previous job in software development, and when I made the choice to leave that and I was talking to my coworkers about it, I remember one of them specifically mentioning like, "Oh, since you're doing video, you could film weddings or something." And my response was like, "Oh, I hope not." Like, my idea then was like, "I don't wanna film weddings." I didn't think about it as a career at all. It was in my mind, it was a totally separate thing. But then, that summer after I quit was when, just like most of us, I feel like we have starting stories with someone who knew I did video, reached out and was like, "Hey, can you film my wedding this summer?" And so, yeah, I was like, $300, sure. Had no idea what I was doing. I remember, vividly remember that wedding. I was getting some scenic shots out by the lake. It was like a classic like barn wedding in the South, and looked over and the couple was just doing their first look, and I was like across the street, not anywhere close to it, had no idea that it was even happening. So learned a lot since then. But yeah, so $300 my first one, and then kind of moving on from there, it was just a grind of just slowly raising your prices every year. There wasn't a lot in the educational space back then, so I really was just kind of going blind. And especially in a place like Mississippi, there's not a large community of wedding filmmakers in the area. Probably at least 3 hours from any of the major hubs in the South. So I was just kind of figuring things out myself and just slowly raising those prices. And it really was a grind those first few years. But then about 2019, 2020 was when I really started buckling down and decided like, no, I'm a wedding videographer. This is a real business. I'm going to turn this around and really focus on this being my priority. And from there, it was, paid for a designer to come in and redo my website, redo my branding and everything. And so really 2019, 2020 was when things really started to take off and get serious. And then when this past year was when I wanted to make that switch over from kind of the budget and lovely market, like you guys talk about, to the luxury market. And so yeah, that's kind of how that process has been from 2015 till now.
Yeah. So, looking at the 2025 season, can you give us a little bit of insight as to how your business looks this year? Like, what are you charging? How many weddings
Mhm.
are you doing? Where are those weddings? All of those things.
Yeah, for sure. So 2024 was my best year yet. Great revenue wise, it was awesome, but I was still getting a lot of those lovely market weddings. And like I mentioned, that was when I had found out about you guys and really wanted to make that push into the luxury market. It's funny, I actually lucked into a wedding in Fairhope, Alabama, and the photographer was Garrett Richardson, who has been on the podcast before with you too. And he was the one who actually mentioned, I was having a conversation with him at the reception. And I was telling him about, this predicament of like, I'm really trying to push into the luxury market. I'd like to do more weddings like this. It was a fantastic wedding. And then he specifically mentioned like, look up Level Up. Like Kelly and Taylor are great people. I think they could really help you with that. And so as soon as I found y'all, I hopped on the mastermind group and like signed up early for the early bonus and everything. I was like, this is exactly what I need. But yeah, so this year, last year I did, I think 15 weddings and my starting price was around 5,000, 5,500. And then this year, it was kind of a slow booking season, the end of last year. So starting January 1, I think I only had 4 weddings on the books and was starting to get a little nervous. But I had just finished implementing everything from Mastermind, had changed a lot of my branding, had changed my portfolio, and really tried to lean into what I want to shoot more and something that would appeal more to planners and higher end weddings. And then so from January 1 until now, I think I've had like the most inquiries I've ever had in a month before. And I'm up to 11 weddings now. So the past month has been crazy booking wise. My pricing right now, just recently raised my prices in January of this year. I'm starting at 7,000. And over the past year, my bookings on average, couples would spend about 8,000 with me.
Amazing.
Amazing. And what does a collection kind of look like for you? So if the listeners are like, okay, wow, he's charging 7,000, he's charged, he's kind of averaging that $8,000
Mhm.
mark and they're curious as to like what does that include? Would you mind sharing some
Yeah, of
transparency of
course.
like what's included in that?
For sure. So kind of starting at that base pricing right there at 7,000. All of my packages, I tell all my clients this too, or during consultation calls, I'll let them know every package is going to include everything that's in this base package right here or collection. I'm still working on those, saying those words correctly now. But yeah, collections.
Totally.
So base collection starts with 2 shooters. So me and a second shooter. And then you're going to get a highlight film that's typically about 5 to 6 minutes long. And then with everything else, I also include a full ceremony film and then a full film of the toast at the reception and then an online gallery. So that's kind of my starting base package. And then from there, as those collections go up, you move into, adding on rehearsal dinner or adding on a doc edit, things like that. And then a longer highlight film, more hours of coverage. Sorry, that's my base collection also has 8 hours of coverage with that.
Yeah,
Cool.
amazing.
And always, did you say, is that always with a second shooter?
Yes, always with the second shooter.
Yes.
Mhm.
Taylor here, just really quickly interrupting this episode because since recording with Tommy, we couldn't be more proud. And we just wanted to share a huge win that he's had just in the last week since recording this episode. He has booked his biggest collection ever, which I think is just such an inspiration for those who are looking to scale their business and who are currently in the trenches of growing alongside Tommy.
Yes, he posted in the group just 1 week after recording this. He said, huge win. Just officially sent out a contract for my biggest wedding yet at $13,000. Wow, Tommy, we are so, so proud of you. You are doing all the right things, and we can't wait to see your journey continue on.
Yeah. Incredible. I mean, okay, so you were in the fall mastermind, right? So,
Yes,
I mean,
that's right.
this has all just been over the last few months because you guys, listeners, this is although it's going live in the spring, it's only February 6th at the time of recording. We're a
Mhm.
little bit ahead of schedule here. So, all within just a few months of implementing specific strategies and things within his business, like raising your prices by $2,000, $3,000 is huge in just a short amount of time. And imagine where you're going to be in a year from now. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm really really excited to see how things go over the next few months and this year especially. And it's tough at times because I want to keep raising those prices and try to figure out where I want to land. But I think one of the things you always mention is that like it's an 18-month timeline. So over the next year and a half, I can set goals for kind of like, hey, let's look back at what things are going to look like, next summer by now. If I continue to push forward with contacting planners and networking and continuing to update my website and Instagram portfolio regularly and make sure those things stay in line with my brand and the kind of weddings that I want to be doing.
Yeah. I would love to dig into some of your social media strategy. We were on your Instagram just kind of perusing through, and oohing and ahhing about your beautiful work. And I have a feeling that the way you've approached Instagram has also shifted
Yes.
a lot over the last few months to a year. So, can we
Mhm.
talk about maybe how that approach has changed?
Yeah, it's changed dramatically, honestly. I think in the past, my biggest approach to Instagram was always couple minded. So the whole thing was geared on what is going to get people to watch this, what's going to make a couple want to watch this. So I was a lot of like, really emotional first looks or emotional letter readings or things like that. Things that I thought people would really want to see, which they do. Like you'd have some of those that would, have a pop and you get a lot of views with them. But I think the thing I didn't realize before was that the people that I should be targeting for pushing the business forward, like planners and other vendors like that, uh, they're not really going to have that much interest in watching a first look or a letter reading or something like that. So the biggest shift for me was okay, let's archive all those old posts that maybe don't fit within the weddings that I want to be doing, and then focus on where the luxury is in my current wedding. So really focus on weddings where that have amazing floral arrangements or just really spectacular ceremonies, things like that, things that are weddings that are in like unique locations. So focusing a lot on that and those details, and then kind of mixing in. There's some personal sides you can still mix in there that I like to do, but as long as it kind of falls in line with that branding of, hey, look, this is the type of weddings I like to do. This may be, a certain moment from a wedding, but as long as it falls in line with those, the brand ideals that I'm putting out there, then that's okay. But yeah, so it's shifted a lot. So I'm very much more like going back and looking over like, the weddings of the past year and thinking, oh, here's a wedding that actually had some really good details that I didn't pay much attention to at the time of editing it. But I still have all this footage sitting there. So I, pull out old hard drives, open up those projects, and then kind of dig into finding out, more footage that I can use from those. Change my color grading too. So I'm just kind of updating all of that. So it's a lot of just digging through all those old files right now too.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Back
Mhm.
in episode 200, which would have gone live several weeks ago, we talked about the differences between treating your business as a hobby versus
Yeah.
treating your business like a business. And I feel like that's something that you've now nailed. I feel like a
Mm.
hobbyist would very much so look at like going through the archives to like find content that would speak to their new ideal client to be not worth the effort.
Mhm.
But once you start thinking of it as a business and how it's actually going to result in an ROI, it
Yeah.
automatically becomes worth it. So I feel like just
Mhm.
that simple shift in mindset means all the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also
Yeah.
there's just so much that maybe I didn't realize at the time, because I think when I first made this shift, there was this mindset of, okay, I need to focus on all the new weddings I'm going to be doing, and a lot of my old weddings are, they're, even if they were lovely market weddings, like you don't need to always put those to the side. It's more of finding the luxury and finding the higher end pieces in those weddings, and especially some chances that I got. Like I may have worked with some really awesome planners in the past that I would love to reconnect with. And so looking back at some of that old footage and finding the best pieces of it and then reposting and sharing it with them too can be extremely helpful.
Mm,
Yeah.
mhm.
I love that you said that too, because I think that there's a lot of people here that are listening right now that have said, wow, he's charging $7,000, but, you know, I could never do that. Or I've
Yeah.
never really even done anything close to a luxury wedding before, or upper lovely, or whatever that is. But it's so I can probably say without a shadow of a doubt that everyone here listening has something that they can
Mhm.
curate and pull from
Yeah.
to create a whole nother just online presence,
Yeah.
just like you have, Tommy. Like you looked back and said, like, whoa, actually, once the blinders were taken off, which is what we talk a lot about in
Yeah.
Mastermind, once those blinders were taken off and the awareness was brought to you, you were like, whoa, actually, I have worked with this planner and this planner that I
Yeah.
didn't even realize was something that I could leverage. And like you said, oh, this wedding, maybe it wasn't luxury, but there was some luxury undertones or pieces
Mhm.
to it that then you can pull from and just put together like a really amazing portfolio for yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's kind of been it, and it's been crazy how like you just didn't even realize that that was there. It's been crazy going back and looking and realizing how much content you actually do have. Uh, because at first I think my worry was that I'm going to have to go to all these editorial shoots and I'm gonna have to do all these other things to get new footage, but realizing that there was some that was already there that I had that was existing helped a ton to get the ball rolling faster than if I was waiting on new weddings to happen or new editorial shoots to come up or something like that.
Yeah, no, that's such a great mindset to have is actually I think I've mentioned this on the podcast once or twice before, but my word for the year for 2025 is maximize.
Yeah.
That's my word. And the spirit of that word is to like squeeze every bit of juice out of everything that I've already done. To the maximum extent possible. And I
Exactly.
feel like that's what you've done. Instead of going out and booking those $4,000 to $5,000 editorial shoots, you kind of just looked backwards in your catalog of, footage and you
Mhm.
were able to pull whatever you needed. And so many people don't even think about that. They're always just thinking like, what's next? What's next?
Yeah.
What's next? Instead of looking, what have I already done that I can use? And I feel like that's
Mhm.
a shift that can save not only a lot of time, but a lot of money in a lot of people's businesses.
Absolutely. Yeah. So much money and time for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been having a lot of conversations with both filmmakers and photographers in the wedding industry, and we have been seeing an overwhelming number of people say that they are either frustrated by the lack of inquiries landing in their inbox or with the quality of inquiries that are coming in too. Leads that maybe just feel a little bit lower than where they are in the market, with low budgets, and with weddings that they're not excited about booking. If you can relate to either one of these and you really want to break into that next level of the market and start attracting your dream clients without chasing them, then we have a new training that we would love to invite you to called the Luxury Wedding Playbook. If you're ready to position yourself in the premium or luxury market with a brand that feels magnetic to high-end clients, but your inbox isn't full of dream clients quite yet, and your brand isn't resonating with your ideal clients or wedding planners, this is because it's about having more than just beautiful work. It's about turning your brand into a client-attracting machine that brings you referrals from wedding planners and fills your calendar with high-end events again and again. And inside this training, we'll teach you exactly how to position your brand to get in front of the right clients and fill your inbox with dream inquiries in just 1 hour of work per week. We hope to see you inside this new training. You can find it at thelevelupco.com/playbook, and we'll see you inside.
Tommy, can you speak a little bit to when you had this just light bulb moment and you're like, wow, I loved shooting this luxury event that you were
Mhm.
on. It sounded like with Garrett.
Yeah.
I want to do more of this. What was it about that luxury event that changed it for you? Like, did you have some preconceived ideas of what luxury weddings were like? And did this like rattle those ideas and just were you able to see it in a new light? Or what was it that that light bulb moment happened for you?
Yeah, so that definitely was a big wedding that changed a lot for me. And going into it, I'd probably come close to some luxury weddings or come close to like top of the lovely market before, but had never worked on anything at this scale before, and just happened to luck into it with a planner who found me and felt like I would be a good fit for the bride. And so yeah, came into this wedding not knowing anything. Really was unsure on exactly how things were going to work. I had talked to the planner before. This is my first wedding where like I guess I did have a little bit of a conversation with the couple, but definitely getting that range of where planner is your primary communication, and almost everything flows through them, and having a meeting with them about, here's the schedule, here's everything we're doing, this is all the layouts for, reception dinner, this is what the layout is for when we move into the grand hall for the reception party and things like that. So it was really interesting just seeing that firsthand. And then also once I got there, just not knowing exactly what to expect. The biggest difference I think I learned was how cohesive everyone works together. And that kind of blew my mind, honestly. Especially like you got someone like Garrett there who's just a huge team player and just wonderful to be around, easy to work with. But then also just the planners, the florist, every single person on the catering staff, all of those were just wonderful. And everyone was kind of going after one goal together. And I think that was the biggest shift I saw was that working around those people like makes your work better as well because you're all working as a team to achieve this common goal. Whereas before in a lot of the weddings, especially in my early years, you kind of come there thinking like I have to prove myself. It's just me. I have to, force my way in and make sure that I can get the shots that I need to. And some of that was from, need because you kind of had to if you worked weddings where there's not a planner or worked weddings with more inexperienced vendors or something, you were kind of on your own. And so that mindset shift there was what was huge, was seeing like, wow, this is incredible to be able to work with people that are extremely dedicated, that want what's best for you as well. So it's kind of nice to talk to those people, get a feeling for what that kind of wedding is like. And that's when, talking to Garrett at the reception was when I was like, okay, if he's telling me this, like I want to push in this direction because I want to work more weddings like this because it was fantastic.
Yeah, it's true. The collaboration
Mhm.
really does happen at the top, and the competition, unfortunately, kind of simmers, like
Yeah.
settles at the
Mhm.
bottom. And that's why, like, that's Taylor and I's biggest mission with the Level Up Co. is to help people just get out of the mainstream market that honestly burns people out.
Yeah.
Like, it's no fun to try to just be a one man team like
Mhm.
again and again, weekend after weekend, where in the luxury market, like you said, Tommy, everyone has that one collective goal in mind and everyone is there to make sure that everyone can execute really well. And
Mhm.
I can say from my experience too, that's been the biggest differentiator. Sure, like the clients in my case, like they're more trusting.
Mhm.
The details are more beautiful. The locations are more amazing. But at the core of it, it's really the collaboration and the friendships that have kept me in this for 15 years. And I think that that's why you see the longevity in the luxury market is because of
Mhm.
that. So that's really cool. I'm so happy that you had that light bulb moment and then now you're experiencing it for yourself now.
Yeah, it's been really awesome, and I'm super excited for kind of what comes next.
Yeah. Okay, so in the spirit of the rising stars and being able to speak to people who may be finding themselves in a similar boat, maybe this is where you were, Tommy, like a year
Mhm.
ago. Let's talk about some of the struggles that you were facing and some of maybe the sticking points that you were finding yourself in and how you kind of worked through those things. Can you think of any off the top of your head?
I think the biggest was just like once you hit the strategy I was going with before, which was just, every 6 months to a year, raise your prices. And I think the problem that I was running into, especially early last year, was the pricing. There's kind of a range there, but for me, it was like once I hit 5,000, I noticed that it was really tough to get new bookings at the pricing. Just get a lot of people that say, "Oh, I can't afford that. That's out of my price range." And so I think pushing through that barrier was probably the toughest part for me, and where I felt down a lot of the time was because, like, how am I gonna get new bookings, or how am I gonna keep raising my prices to a point that's sustainable long term for me, but also, get in front of clients that do have the budget for this type of wedding video. And I think the biggest shift for me that helped a ton was, when y'all mentioned, shifting who your client is to from the couple to the planner. And so that was the biggest sticking point for me, was realizing like, okay, I'm going to shift everything in my brand over to things that planners would like to see, that can show that I can handle the types of weddings that they are putting on, and that I could be a valuable resource for them as well, to give them good footage, and then also, show them that I can work weddings that they're planning as well. And that, I think, helped me a ton as well to start making those connections, pushing through to that price point, and then now a lot of more of those bookings are coming in because of that. That's probably the biggest thing that comes off the top of mind, was just, pushing through that price point, shifting your mindset, and then also your brand and everything you're doing towards who is your end client, who do you want to see this work, first and foremost, really.
Yeah, no, that's great. I feel like plateaus are a very natural part of business,
Mhm.
and we all hit plateaus. And it's okay to stay there if you want to stay there. But so many of our community members are highly driven and want
Yeah.
so much more for their businesses. And so it's all about unlocking the thing that will allow you to get to the next level. So Kelly
Mhm.
and I love to say, like, what's worked to get you to up to this point is not going to get you to
Yeah,
the next level that you're seeking. So you really have to
exactly.
do so much reversing and undoing what you've already done, which
Mhm.
is how you approach your ideal client. You are very like couple heavy on your Instagram presence
Yeah.
and branding and messaging. And as soon as you kind of reverse that and started piecing together all of those things with a planner in mind instead, I feel like that unlocked a whole new level of potential, and it's going to
Mhm.
continue helping you grow to where the next plateau you will hit will probably not happen until you're at 12,000 or 13,000. I
Yeah.
feel like each level gets a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger, which is kind of a fun thing to notice as people grow throughout the industry.
Yeah. And then also just I think there's a level too as creatives whenever we're first starting out. There's this idea that, we think, oh, the work my work will speak for itself and that will help me get into the room because people are going to see it. They're going to see, oh, I can film a wedding at this level. I People can trust me because of that. But just like a job interview, for example, like there's a reason there's an interview is because people want to make sure they can work with you, not just that your work is good, that you have the experience to back it up, but they want to make sure they can work with you there too. And so I think shifting that mindset as well was huge, because before I was like, if something goes wrong, or if I'm doing something wrong on the wedding day, my work will be okay, because as long as I can put out a good video, it'll shine and that should be fine. But shifting that mindset again to just saying like, no, I need to be excellent and extremely professional on the wedding day. I need to make sure that I am putting off this persona to, wedding vendors and planners and people like that as well. And then also getting in the room with them and showing them that, I can be fun to be around. I can be easy to work with. And that helps a ton too. Just not relying on your work solely, because I think as creatives, we tend to want to do that because we take so much pride in that creative side of our work.
Yeah, people wanna work with people they like.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so true. Yeah, and I feel like people who are really stubborn in the way of
Mhm.
relying only on their work are ones that stay in that plateau,
Yeah.
level for way too long when it's not necessary. You don't have to stay there. Um, okay, so for the listeners coming up here in just a little while, a few weeks, we are opening the doors again to the Luxury Mastermind. And I know that a lot of our audience members are on the fence and they've been on the fence for a while. Can you speak a little bit about your experience within Mastermind and maybe help the listeners discern whether or not this may be a good fit for them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a huge fan. Everything from the mastermind was incredibly helpful for me. I know this was my first like actual full mastermind to do. I'd done some, small courses and stuff like that before, and really, in the education space especially, there's a lot of just not good material out there. So I've always been skeptical of so much in the educational space, especially on the videography side. There's a ton on the commercial side. There's some in the wedding side as well. That's you get targeted with ads about some of these constantly. But so I was a little skeptical at first, but I trusted that I'd seen people that knew you guys, people that had come through it and seen the work they were putting out, and could see the proof basically of kind of what was helping people with that. And so that made me trust enough to dive in and say, this is exactly what I want to do. And it was absolutely worth it. I mean, the every single week talking, first of all, having the community of everyone there that are asking questions and going through the course as well. But then also the guest speakers you have on were extremely beneficial. Like this year we had Lynn Easton, which was incredible. And I think she was one of the first ones that it hit me like, okay, that she just said it, put it in a very blunt and direct way of like, you need to be focused on the planner. Like I need videographers and photographers that are going to help me out and who are going to, put in the extra effort for me. And then realizing that, okay, that's how I'm going to get more bookings in these levels in the market, are, being excellent and serving the planner in that way and helping them out. Because when you help them out, they can in turn help you out by getting more weddings as well, because they trust you and enjoy working with you. So that was huge. Then also hearing from just, everyone you had on this year was incredible as well. Eric McVeigh, Anna Lord, super helpful to kind of hear from people that had been in the industry for a while and their mindset. And then also just the community group too was extremely beneficial. Most likely, I know for me, like I said, I'm kind of in a desert out here in Jackson, Mississippi. There's not a huge wedding industry around me, but I did have someone from New Orleans. Andrew was in the group as well, and we've already met up a few times. So forming those connections in the real world that you can meet up with and continue to kind of help bounce ideas off of each other and talk through what your strategies are, those are extremely helpful as well.
That's amazing. What I love too about you're so talented. You went through the mastermind and absolutely executed. Like
Mhm.
every single week, we watched you execute, and we're just so proud of you for that.
Thank you.
Um, but for those who are sitting here listening, they're like, okay, great. Like the mastermind sounds great. But like for someone that's listening and saying, well, okay, why would I join mastermind if there's not luxury in my area or in my
Mhm.
local market or even around me? you're in Jackson, Mississippi, and you have found luxury in your local market, or at least like within driving
Yeah.
distance, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Which is
So
so huge. That's where like Taylor and I say luxury truly is everywhere in this country. You just have to know where to look for it. It's
mhm,
there. It could be right in front of you. And so I think that's the cool thing is that you had said a little while back that you hit that 5,000 mark and you're like, okay, but how do I push through this? And I think there's a lot of people that sit there saying, okay, well, I've reached my limit with where I
mhm,
am. This is just like, this is it. This is it for me. This is my life. Where you were like, no, I know that there's like another level here.
mhm.
Now, how do I get there?
Yeah. That was a kind of a huge shift too, and that came along with the mindset shift of getting in the room with people. So starting to look at where are WIPA chapters near me, where is some of these events like Engage, Kinetic experiences, things like that. Paying attention to those. So what's funny is like the closest, all of the WIPA chapters around me are like 5.5, 6 hours away. There's none that are closer than that to me. So back in I think it was December maybe. I went down to Northwest Florida. It was kind of in the Destin area, and there was a Whipper chapter there, and they had a cool event that me and Andrew went to together. But yeah, so kind of finding ways to do that. I'm already got my sights on. I follow all of the Whipper chapters that are close to me, and I'm looking at when their events are. And so I know Nashville's got a big one, Dallas has a big one, Houston has a big one as well. Those are kind of the four that I have my sights on. New Orleans used to have one. I think it closed down a few years back. So that would have been my closest one. But yeah, so kind of targeting those and then other events as well, and just saying like, hey, I need to get in the room to these. It's not as easy as someone who would live in that market, but it's definitely possible. I mean, next time an event comes up, I already plan on just going down the night before, getting a hotel, uh, going to the event, making the most of my time, and maybe also, using that time to my advantage. Outside of the event, I could do things like venue tours or get coffee with someone else who might be in the area that's not a part of that chapter or something like that. So pushing towards that and just pushing towards those markets that I do want to be in. Because while I'm not, most likely will not be moving out of Jackson, me and my family are settled here. But I know I would love to do weddings in places like, Nashville, New Orleans, Dallas, places like that would be great. Those are not far distances. At least here in the US, it's not a far distance to drive, 4 to 5 hours for to shoot a wedding. Like that's not a big deal for me. Another thing, I'm this weekend I'm second shooting a wedding with Lucy Cameron, who's also been on the
Oh, I
podcast.
love
Yeah, Lucy's
Lucy.
incredible, and she is shooting a wedding. She says it's one of the biggest she's shot. She said, and it's I think guest count wise, maybe not production wise, but huge wedding, and it's in Little Ellisville, Mississippi, which is an hour and a half from me. I just reached out to Lucy to say hey on Instagram, and she asked where I was located, and I said Jackson, Mississippi, and she said, "Oh my gosh, I have a wedding in Ellisville, Mississippi coming up. Could you possibly second shoot with me?" Because she's having a third shooter come on too, and she had to pull someone all the way from Memphis to come down, which is like a 3 hour drive. So that was another mindset shift too, is like there's not a ton of luxury weddings that happen in Mississippi, but there's some, and they still do happen. And if you have those right connections at the time, you can be in a place to work those.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. There's people with money in all corners of the
Yeah.
US having weddings. It's just happening right under our noses some of the
Hmm.
time. So you just have to put yourself in the right position, and then like timing and opportunity will eventually meet for a
Hmm.
beautiful thing to be, to come from it. One thing I
Exactly.
love about you, Tommy, is the same thing that I love about Kelly. And it's that you're both doers. So instead of just like waiting, like sitting and waiting for things to like come to you,
Hmm.
which I think unfortunately is the way a lot of people in the industry kind of
Yeah.
approach business, or the lack of approach to business, is like the sitting and waiting, and then becoming frustrated. You went out and like sought out all of these opportunities for
Mhm.
yourself. So I think that's one thing that people can take away for this 2025 season is nothing is going to land in your lap
Mhm.
magically. That's not the way the world works. Those opportunities come to those who seek them out. So you need
Yeah.
to be putting yourself in the room. You need to be making those relationships, doing the portfolio. You know what I mean? Like do
Mhm.
all the things that you can, check all the boxes, and then eventually the results will come. I
Yeah.
think it's such a missed opportunity when people um take a passive approach to their business.
Yeah, absolutely. Just understanding that like that's a part of your job too. Like don't just think of your job as, oh, I'm a wedding videographer, I make wedding films. That's part of your job. My job is also to get in front of people to market myself, uh, because that's just as important as, creating a beautiful film.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's actually a great way to think of it because I think a lot of people do think I'm a wedding photographer, I'm a
Hmm.
wedding videographer, and they forget that no, you're the marketing department, you're
Yeah.
the accounting department, you are HR, you are
Yep.
all of the things.
Yeah.
You're the
A full
legal
scale.
department in most cases too.
Yeah,
Exactly. A full scale business couldn't survive if they only had a video guy. So,
Yeah.
absolutely.
mhm.
Yeah. Well, we are so, so proud of you, Tommy. I know that the listeners are going to love this episode, that they are going to feel just reignited in their business to go out and do and take action in all the ways that you have too. We are so excited to continue watching you grow in 2025 and in 2026. I am hoping that this year or very soon, early on in the next season, that your 5-figure wedding will come your way. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell the listeners once more where they can find you, your website, social media, so they can connect with you?
Yeah, of course. So my Instagram is just Tommy Kirkpatrick Films. Website is tommykirkpatrick.com. I'm most active on Instagram. But yeah, you can find me there. And yeah, thank you so much for having me, y'all. This has been a blast.
Thank you for joining us in today's conversation. Please help us reach more filmmakers and photographers like you by taking a screenshot and sharing it to social media. And don't forget to tag us at The Level Up Co.
And join us again next week, same time, same place, as we continue to level up the industry together.